Okay, so we have our word counter done. Now, I didn't mention it in one of the previous videos I meant to, but we could do this in a different way. We could have a little for loop that goes in and looks for spaces and counts words that way. I'm sure there's other ways we can do it that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. Lots of different ways to go in and count these words, but this is the one that I found to be the easiest as I was thinking about it. All right, let's go in and create our second method. So, by the way, one of the things that I should start emphasizing here is because I'm someone who's gone in and looked at a lot of past code that people have written to try and update it, it's so painful when it's not clear what's going on. And so it's nice to add commenting in throughout your program, and it's helpful for not only other people but for yourself. And we don't need to comment every line, but we need to comment things that are particularly confusing or blocks of code. In fact, if you do comment every line, it gets actually harder to read. And so we don't want that. But I can say here, why am I doing this split? So I can make a little note here, split the string into separate words to make it easier to count. Then someone coming else into the program to look at it, or me coming back months later to figure out something and try and fix a problem in the code, then I just have this little note here that tells me why I'm doing what I'm doing. Now, things like we don't need to comment return word count, that is self-explanatory. And if we name our variables in a way that they are self-explanatory, if we name this WC, then that's not helpful. It doesn't tell me what it is. And so then I do have to do some investigation to figure out. But there's people who would argue that in writing good code, if you name your variables and methods and classes in an appropriate way, you should never need to put a comment into the program because it'll be so self-explanatory about what's going on. Now, I feel like that's probably a little too extreme, but I feel like we can eliminate the need for a lot of comments if we'll just name stuff in a way that is very easy to read. All right, so continuing on then, let's go in and create a second method here. So public, and again, this is going to be a counter. And so what are we going to return? Well, again, we're probably going to want to return a number. And so I'll say public int, and this is our character counter. So this is going to tell us how many characters are in this word, and so, or string of words. So again, if we're going to create this a string, we can call it words again, but I want to emphasize we could call it something completely different if we wanted to, paragraph. It's not related to what we wrote here, and it's not related to what we're passing in here. These all exist in separate spaces. This quote exists between the opening brace that you can't see here and the closing brace you can't see here. Words exist between this brace and this brace. That's its entire life and death is between these two braces. And so I can name this words just like there are other people in this world named Spencer, but they are not Spencer. They're their version of Spencer, but they're not me, right? We exist separately. And so I can name this words, which I probably will, just thinking through that. But this words is character counter dot words, and this words is word counter dot words. It's two separate variables that just happen to have the same name. All right, now I can do the same kind of style here. I can set up a variable called character count, and as we're naming variables, common practice in the world of naming variables is to name them beginning with a lowercase letter and then using the camel case as we hit new words. So lowercase c and then capital C, and if I had another word, for quotes, then every new word gets a capital letter, and that helps. That's not anything that C# cares about, but that helps us as programmers to make it more readable for us. And so that's standard practice in the world of programming. All right, so we've got our character count variable. Now, how do we get a count of characters? As it turns out, this is going to be our easiest one because built into the string, and maybe I'll do it this way. Let's type in character count is going to be equal to, and then if I type in the name of the string, words, and say dot, it's going to have a whole bunch of things it can do all by itself. Tons of properties, tons of methods, lots of different things it can do. And one of those things happens to be, as it's hinting for us here, a length. So it will give me the length of the string that we're looking at in characters. And once I have that length, then I can return the character count. And that one is that simple. And so we can go in and test it. Same thing here. We can come in and say the number of words is that, and then we can console.writeLine and say the number of characters. And then how are we going to access that method? Well, first of all, I wish I hadn't saved, because if I hadn't saved, it wouldn't have recognized it. I need to save on this side first. And then once I've saved it, then do I need to go build a new instance of a word tools? WT2 equals new word tools. Do I need to go build a new instance to get that character count? And then I say WT2 dot word counter, but I don't want to do word counter, I want to do character counter, and then pass in the quote. Do I need to build that new instance to be able to do it? And the answer is, do I need to go, I think I used the example of a stapler. Do I need to go buy a new stapler every time I want to staple some papers together? No, I just use the same stapler. Now, there may be instances where we need more than one thing, more than one object, but a lot of times we only need the one. And so I can just use the same stapler. And I should say now that this quote, this is the declaration and instantiation. But I can use this same word tools instance to get both the word count and the character count. All right, so let's try again. I'll run this program. And so I'll try again my little testing, 1, 2, 3. So this gives us the number of words is 3 and the number of characters is 21. All right, so that seems to be working good. We've got 2 methods down and 1, and as it turns out to be the hardest one, to go. Spencer out.